Hi, everyone. Welcome back to The Future is Female. This is your host, Ruffin Mitchner. Today, I'm chatting with Mitch Gilbert. She is one of 200 Black women who have raised over $1 million in venture capital. As a college athlete, Mitch learned that the leggings she wore made women 2 times more likely to develop health issues. After realizing that millions of other women dealt with the same issue, she developed Oya Femtech. It's the first functional athletic wear with women's health in mind. Mitch has been such an inspiration since our time together as classmates at UCLA Anderson. Shout out Bruins. So I'm so excited to share her episode on The Future is Female. We hope you enjoy. Hello, Mitch. Welcome to the podcast. It's so good to see you. For our listeners, Mitch is also an Anderson MBA grad, so we go back. I'm so excited to have you today on the show. Do you want to start out by just sharing a little bit about who you are and what you are working on these days?
Yeah. Okay. So I've always been into innovation, fashion, and I guess you can say rights and advancement of underserved people. So as much, I think in high school, I was on the robotics team and I was on the presentation pitch committee, which who knew that that would be a skill set that I need to develop later on in life. From there, I went to college. I was a state ranking athlete. I played rugby. I was playing with Olympians. And because I lived in activewear, I had a problem with reoccurring feminine health issues, which at the time, very embarrassed about, didn't want to talk about it. So, but even still, I continued to train because I never knew that there was anything that I could do to prevent it. So from there, I went on to teach high school. I did Teach for America, but like a true nerd, I taught economics and robotics. I built a state ranking robotics program. We were backed by NASA and Google. And again, just my love for innovation and tinkering and also working with youth from Detroit and helping them see like this is what innovation, this is how you make things. From there, I went on to consulting where I thought I was going to die a slow death and become a partner. But I was recruited to go to business school based off a conversation on an airplane about knockoff Yeezy sneakers. And ultimately, I did not go to the business school that I was recruited for. I actually wound up going to UCLA, which was another business school that I was recruited for, because then I started gaining confidence that I could start a business. So I went to UCLA because they had this program at the time called BCO, which was essentially a prescriptive way to build a business. So over 2 years, you get paired with a team of 4 other people and you work on a business plan. And since no one in my family had ever been an entrepreneur before, that seemed like a really great way for me to get started. So I knew I wanted to work on something in fashion, and we were not influencers. We weren't cool. We didn't have a lot of money. So we looked at brands that were able to build really cool fashion brands that looked like us, and they all served an underserved customer with innovation. So like Nike creating the first running shoe or Gore-Tex enabling skiers to go outside. So I'm in business school and of course I'm stressed. So I'm training. Like I think at one point I like hurt my back because I was doing too many pull-ups to Rick Ross in the gym at UCLA because that's my lifestyle. And I go to the OBGYN with another yeast infection and she tells me to stop wearing leggings. And I was like, no, this can't be it. This can't be true. So I went back to my team and we did our 200 hours of required research for university. And we found that there is a link between feminine health issues and women's performance wear because most women's performance wear is made of non-perforated spandex blends, which don't breathe and they trap moisture, which is bad for women athletes because we leak and the moisture is not going anywhere and it's creating a bad environment for your feminine health. And so we've just been entering business plan competitions, prototyping, and we're learning every day. But that's kind of my journey as to how I got here.
Amazing. So cool. I obviously was at Anderson and also did the BCO program, but for people listening, can you share a little bit more about like the actual resources that you found on campus, like also any of those case competitions that you did, like which ones of those did you go after? Were there opportunities for grant funding? Curious what it was like being a startup founder, but linked to a university campus.
Yeah, so being at a university was an amazing opportunity because there were so many business plan competitions that surrounded us, and there was so much guidance to help us start a business the right way. For example, before coming to business school, I didn't even understand the concept of a co-founder. And now that I have a co-founder, it's honestly one of the most wonderful things that I could ever have asked for. So BCO takes you all the way from business plan development to ideation, et cetera. And when I say business plan, I mean putting that all together into, so when you're on campus, it's BCO taught you all the aspects of your business. So from putting together a marketing plan, go to market, research is like, do you have a problem? What are the size of the market of people who have your problem? And financial plan and legal, like legal plans, and thinking through all of these things. Also, there's resources to help you understand how to enter these case competitions. And case competitions are great because now it's not just your idea that you're pitching around with your friends. You're being put in front of industry leading experts and seeing, would they invest in you? What do they think about your idea? And as a woman presenting person of color, it's important that you have people don't invest in you because of potential. They invest in you because of traction. And I don't think that's right, but it is what is happening. So the more that you can find ways to get in front of people like case competitions or enter accelerators, et cetera, where there are people who can see your work ethic and your results, the more it's going to stand out. I thought BCO did a great job with introducing me to BCO is a team of 5. And what I was able to do was staff our team with skill sets that I lacked. So I knew we wanted to do apparel. So I staffed a product finance manager who was from Nike. We have a lot of engineering. So I staffed an aerospace engineer. I staffed a project manager, and I staffed someone with healthcare experience. If I wanted to start a business and I was not in business school and I had to pay those people, I'm not even sure how expensive that would be, but because they were all at Anderson, they just got a grade. Also, being in the BCO program, we got funding from the university to do things like our first rounds of Facebook ads and testing to validate our idea. And then on top of that, these business plan competitions really helped us win services. Like, for example, our legal services cost $100,000. Did I pay that? No, because I do not have generational wealth, but I won it. So shout out to the resources we were able to get through UCLA.
That's super epic. I remember you crushed the case competition. So remind me of the competitions you did, the amount of funding you were able to get, and then what did you use those winnings to do? Like, did you create your first product? Sounds like maybe some legal services.
Yeah, it's funny because I technically, for a female who's brown, I did crush them, but like realistically, not really though. Like we were very, I remember even an advisor is telling us that we need to stay out of business plan competitions and focus on sales because business plan competitions tend to be very biased, right? They don't have a lot of women judges. It's a lot of older judges, older men, and it's a lot of men who come from tech. And so saying that we focus on vaginas, we got a lot of pushback and had definitely been kicked out of competitions before we even got to really advance because the venture capital game is inherently sexist and racist. And people may not explicitly say it, but there's definitely a lot of forces that don't want to necessarily see us win. That being said, on the flip side, we were fortunate to have done so well in a few competitions. So our first competition, Lowell Milken, we placed 3rd. And it's funny because there was only one female judge. And of course, normally when Oya is in a business plan competition, it always goes into overtime because there's always one female judge and she's always arguing till she's blue in the face on Oya's behalf. And we hear in different situations, she's bringing up Spanx, She's bringing up Lululemon. She's bringing up all these complementary businesses to say, no, you have to understand that these are problems and these are opportunities. And that has been true for us since our first business plan competition all the way to the most recent one that we've been in, and even accelerators. So I say that all to say, if you're in a business plan competition and no one looks like you, and your first one doesn't work, or your second one doesn't work, or you come in second place or even third place, like, that is okay, because what you're learning is how to make your business plan better, how to communicate with people who may not look like you. And then three, what you're doing is getting advisors and people, because those women, even though they're outnumbered, will become your advocates, and they will continue to work with you on your business. One example of this is, so I guess we did UCLA Lowell Milken, which is out of the law school. We did UCLA Anderson's competition, Berkeley, Northwestern, Harvard, UPenn, Wharton, and Rice. But yeah, Rice business plan competition is the largest one in the world, so I highly recommend it. And I think there's close to 1,000 companies that apply, and they narrow it down to the top 7, and the top 7 are all winners because we all win money. Oya was ranked number 5. We were the only females. We were the only Black people. We were the only product-based business in like years, and we didn't win the diversity award. I don't know. That is its own story in and of itself. So, but that being said, being in that competition later on came back because again, those women, even though they may not have had all the voting power, were very invested and very committed. So we got an advisor out of that who helped push out our initial first go-to-market strategy. We and even to this day, they connected us, and now I'm going to be working on an Amazon podcast. So your judges may not be representative of the broader America, but the feedback that we've been able to gain from these competitions and the prizes from our law school, our legal bills, to even just initial prizes like $2,500 to help us get prototyping and things like that off the ground, to even mentors and advisors, has just been you can't put a cost on it.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing. I'm curious. So after, the research that your team did and all the case competitions, how did you create the first prototype? And tell me more about the technology and how Oya works.
Yeah, so a lot of fashion is getting in there, getting your hands dirty, and finding the right network, because it's a contractor-based business. So there's always someone who wants to take advantage of you. So the more that you understand exactly what's going on, and the more that you're showing up, and even if you don't understand what's going on, you're just showing up, the better it will be. So a complication on this is that once we were able to secure our first round of funding from a pitch competition, it was COVID. So everything was shutting down. So it was very difficult to find a factory. And I remember another thing is, you never know where in your network new things are going to come from. So stay open, stay curious, stay meeting people. So I was actually at the UCLA Anderson Accelerator, maybe like 1 or 2 o'clock at night, because I was working on things. I was just so excited. And the security guard came to me. He's like, "What you working on? I just be seeing you here. What you be working on?" And I'm like, "Working on this fashion brand. I want to make pants that help vaginas." And he's like, "Oh, word. I've never done that, but I like making clothes too." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Yeah, I used to manufacture. I used to own a print shop and all this stuff." And I'm like, "Do you know people who would make this?" And he's like, "Well, I could ask around." Lo and behold, that security guard has connected us with our last 3 batches of manufacturers. And he is still an advisor in our company to this day. Originally, when we first started, I was starting with Lululemon leggings that I had jerry rigged with safety pins and paper. And I was like working with doctors, and I'm like, it should work like this. But once we were introduced to a factory and a pattern maker, and for those of you not familiar with fashion, a pattern maker is like an architect. So they're designing the actual schematics of your garment and how everything fits together. They actually started bringing everything together. So they were working with us on fabric selection, color selection, refining the fit in everything. And it was challenging because we were trying to decide whether we should go offshore versus continuing to produce in LA. So we've grown a lot since then. Now our pattern maker is on staff and full time. We have a strong relationship with our factory. We are looking to expand to a second factory, and things are moving forward. But again, we found that from a security guard at the accelerator at 2 a.m.
That is a crazy story. I did not know that. Wow. You never know. You just never know. That's amazing.
I remember him showing up like 2 days later, and he's like, he showed up in his car. He's like, "You ready to go to the factory?" And I was like, "You expect me to get in your car?" And he's like, "Well, I'm not sure how else we're gonna get there." And so I was like, I was definitely like kind of freaked out, but no, it really worked out. He was just genuinely like a really great guy.
That's amazing. So the factory is local, which I'm assuming means like you were able to go over there a bunch and like talk to the people at the factory and understand exactly the product that was being created.
Yes, and we had to shift across 4 factories. This is our 4th factory that we're on. So know that, again, if your first factory doesn't work out, your second, it's okay. But as you go through these factories, you're going to learn more and more about what you want the product to be. And everything about Oya is domestic. Like our fabric is made here in LA. It's sewn here, manufactured here. Even our logos are now made here. And what this means is that at first last year, I actually lived downtown. So that way I could be at the factory quite frequently, getting my hands dirty, just showing people, because these factories will invest into you too. They may not be investors, but they'll invest time. They'll get your ideas right. They will prioritize your projects because they want to make sure that you do well. So that way when you blow up, you continue to give them good business. And if you don't necessarily have a lot of money, what you do have is effort. So I moved downtown to show that I was committed, and I am appreciative that our factories are committed back to us.
Amazing. And then why did you have to move between factories?
Our first factory got shut down because of COVID, and they had to refocus on making masks because it was an essential business. They had to stay open. They had to move to making masks. Our second factory was in China, so it was overseas, and we didn't have a lot of control or insight into our production. And especially with everything going on between the volatility between China and America, it just made more sense to produce it here. Our third factory, it was just quality. And, being a brown woman, sometimes you encounter men in any business who just have so much machismo and can't take accountability. And it just was this weird relationship. Like, I pay you. I don't know why you're confused. Like, this is not, yeah. And so finally, once we brought our pattern maker back, well, once we hired our full-time pattern maker, we were able, again, the security guard found our latest factory, and then we just have been building with them since.
That's so cool. Okay, maybe going back a little bit, when did you make your like first order and how did you make your first sales?
Our first order was spring/summer 2022. No, 2022, because that's when we graduated. Yes. So we graduated in 2022. Or maybe I graduated. No,
No,
the days are blending together.
you're 2021 because I was
Yes.
2022.
The years have started to blend together. I'm sorry.
I get it. I
I'm
get
sorry.
it. For me too.
So spring 2021 and spring/summer. And we actually did not think we were going to make any sales. We didn't know what we were doing. We were co-founders together through this BCO project. Everyone shipped in money, and it finally got here from China. And we just sent out an email. And at that point, people had been following us through pitch competitions for so long that we had a waiting list. So people just started buying. And like we exceeded our goal by thousands of dollars, which for us at the time, we were like, yay. So Oya did over 30K in sales in 6 months with zero ad spend because we had such a strong community around us.
That is incredible. So remind me, who is your co-founder, and is he the only one that joined from BCO? And who else is on the team now?
Yeah, so my co-founder Patrick and I are the only ones that went full time. Uh, we did give people on the BCO team who contributed to paying for our first batch of inventory equity. Everybody else just got a grade, but that was the majority of our BCO team. And they all went on to have other full-time jobs, but they're all just a phone call away. Like one of my other co-founders didn't even go to UCLA Anderson. He went to UCLA for undergrad, but he was from LA, but he went to Simon Business School and was in the same cohort as us. But he came to classes, like he was just on Zoom. He was like committed, and he works full time at Microsoft now, but he's going to be doing Valentine's Day content for us. And I appreciate that about my co-founders, because even if I need to call and be like, ah, they're like, okay, like let me get on Excel with you right now. Um, and those are the sorts of bonds that have only been forged in fire. Like they're not like they've been forged in fire. My team now, there's 3 full-time employees, including my co-founder, myself. We have a host of part-time employees. We just employed Katie Lee, who is an Anderson current student. You may know her. We have someone working on social who is also getting a PhD in molecular biology. We have our pattern maker slash production manager. She's full time. We have someone working on our influencers and paid ads. We have a whole org chart. We have a PR team. We have uh, someone working with our emails. So there's a lot of people who I never fully know how to answer that question.
Incredible. Well, that's just a testament to your amazing leadership that you've built such a cool team around you. So congrats. Um, Curious now, would love to talk about your recent fundraise. Would love to know, have you fundraised before? Was this your first fundraise? How much did you raise? What are you using the capital for? Like, what was your fundraising journey like? Lots of questions.
Yeah, so this is my first fundraise. We closed an oversubscribed pre-seed round, so 1.3 million. We closed probably about 6 months ago, but it took about 6 months to get all the legalese, you know, these corporations be moving at their own pace so that way we could get the press release out. Um, what was the journey like? Well, the lesson learned that I would have for women who are fundraising, don't look at these numbers. There are people who keep posting me on LinkedIn like, only 0.5% of funding goes to women of color and the number's going down. I'm like, why would you even put that in like, no, I don't want to know that. I want to be like a horse with blinders, and I want to believe, I want to know that as long as I work hard and I surround myself with the right people and who believe in what we're doing, and we can all work well together, that we can achieve whatever the hell it is that we put our mind to. Like, I cannot change whether people are sexist or racist or any of these systems, because these systems have been this way before I was even born, right? But what I can do is be the best leader that I can be for my team and create the best product that I can create for my customers. So I don't want to pay attention to those numbers. And I think also what happens with a lot of people raising capital, especially from underserved communities, is sometimes you get so focused on trying to make the people around you believe in you that you are not finding your right people. So when I enter these business plan competitions and people would do us dirty, like dirty, my advisor would be like, these are not your people. Why are you talking to them? My BCO advisor. And the best example I would have to say to that is, if you look at a bottle of water and you get it from the dollar store, it can be 50 cents. If you get it from off the street, it could be $1. If you get it from uh if you get it from a restaurant, it could be $5, $6. If you get it from a music festival, it could be $16. And what happens is sometimes founders will stay amongst dollar store 50-cent people, and therefore they're not getting all the adequate resources that they needed. So, for example, if I didn't go to business school, it probably would have been a lot harder for me to start a business. But I moved. So I went from the dollar store to, I guess you can say, a restaurant. But then at the restaurant, even though I was $5 or $6, I realized to create a big scalable business, I needed to go somewhere else. So I actually moved for Techstars, which is a fantastic accelerator that I highly recommend. For the whole summer, I moved away from LA because I wasn't finding the people. They were not my people. And so I realized that Oya makes sense to athletes, like male athletes, women athletes, etc. And then once I got around my people, fundraising became a lot easier because I was able to speak a language that they understood. So sometimes, again, you can be talking to dollar store 50-cent people to your blue in the face. But if that's all they have, and those are the ceilings they have created for you, you're not going to get higher than that. And so sometimes you need to remove yourself from that situation.
Yeah. That's great advice. I feel like it's like targeting the right people that are going to believe in you instead of, wasting your time and energy on someone that's just not going to get it at the end of the day. I wanted to ask you about Techstars. Can you share just more about that experience, the application process, and then the resources that you and your team got when you were in the program?
Yeah, I love my experience at Techstars. I actually sent them this message the other day. It was like, I was the only female CEO. I was the only Black CEO. So you can take of that what you will, but I had a great, fantastic experience. Everyone was everything was so flat. So even though all our businesses were in different stages, everyone just, they forced us every week to talk about all the problems in our businesses. So it almost like made all the ego dissipate. There was it was a culture that everyone struggled on something. And they also made us talk about our feelings. They sent my co-founder and I had to like get our situation straight. Like they've seen so many companies that it just was a really refreshing experience for me. And they were no nonsense. They were like, no, this is failing. You need to fix that. And it really taught me the language of venture capital. And once I had that experience, I just began to move differently. And again, moving back to finding my people. Uh, I would also say, as far as the application process, it is venture capital. So get an introduction, like venture capitalists don't, yes, cold emails are great, but what they really want is for you to know somebody who they have a long relationship with from like when they were a child, from whatever private school they went to, and they want you to know that person and introduce them to that person, so that way you can start it's weird. That's what you just got to acknowledge it is what it is. And it's interesting because looking back on this experience, like, again, the only woman there, the only Black person, when you're when you're one of the first 200, or like only 0.54% of capital goes to people who look like me, like I am a generational dream. So the amount of, I'm not going to say pressure, but the amount of drive that comes with like making sure I land everything is very different than some of other people in the program, because they were like doing their startups and some of them were like investing in each other's businesses. And I'm like, how are you here in a startup investing in someone else's business? And so, then you start getting into generational wealth, right? And you realize like we are not the same. Like we're flat, we're together, we're talking about our weaknesses or all these things, but we're not the same. But at the same time, you can't really fault anyone for that because people are born into these situations, and you can't beat yourself up because you don't have these advantages. You just have to think about what advantages you do have and who's in your network and who's in your corner, and just like outgrind these people. Because some of my co-workers in that cohort, their companies are shutting down. We're not doing that, like, because we don't have no choice, because we have to. I represent so many other women and people of color behind me who want to get in that door, and I refuse to let them down.
That's amazing. Also, can you share more about the REI accelerator that you've done as well?
Yeah, so we were an inaugural member of the Navigate community, where I guess you can say Navigate Accelerator. There were 6 of us, and REI has, I would say Techstars taught us how to build a venture-backed business, and REI is teaching us how to build an apparel business, you know, like, because Techstars is tech stars. It's like software, very techy, traditional venture capital. Whereas REI had noticed that not a lot of companies in their stores were owned by people of color or just diverse founders in general. And so this is their investment into diversifying the owners in their store and also getting more diverse customers in their store. And so they are able to ask me hard questions about inventory and about financial planning. And I'm learning and growing every day because I am not a finance person. If you were going to go to war, you totally want me to be on your team. I have skill sets, but if you're going to war and you wanted me to be your finance person on your team, I don't know, man. That might be a hard thing. And so what I will say about REI as well is that when you're fundraising capital, to go back to one of your earlier questions, we were very intentional about who we put on our cap table. We did not just want people who gave us money. We wanted people, again, I staff for my weaknesses. So like with my BCO team, I knew I would struggle with finance. So I found a Nike product finance manager. And so now I knew I struggled with venture capital. So I found Techstars to help me read that language or speak that language. I found REI to help me figure out how do I manage inventory and move SKUs and seasonality. I found other people who are very well connected in the Black community to help me do et cetera, et cetera. So you should be very intentional about who you put on your cap table.
Very smart. Something very exciting coming up for Oya in the next year.
Oh, I can't fully talk about it. It's not fully in fruition yet, but so we recently got advice from a advisor is less pop-ups, more collabs. And so I've been thinking about, I want to do a sorority collab for homecoming, a Black sorority, and for the AKAs specifically, because I have a partner who works with the AKAs specifically at Howard. And now we might be bringing a celebrity into this collab. So I want y'all to get ready. It's about to be lit. I don't even know how lit it's going to be, but there's a lot of exciting things this year, I think.
Wow, I can't wait for that reveal. Very exciting. Secret lips are tied. And then okay, final few questions as we wrap things up. Can you share a female founder, investor, or female leader that you admire and a little bit about why?
Oh, there's so many. Indira from PepsiCo. She's just such a sensible leader. No nonsense. She does her job very by the book. She has so much to teach. Naomi Campbell, because she believes in herself and she doesn't take, I don't know if you're going to blurt this out. She doesn't take shit from anybody. Like she genuinely knows what she's worth and does not allow anyone, she does not get, like, for example, Naomi Campbell's not reading when she was coming up, she wasn't reading the 0.52%. Naomi Campbell was like, I am the best regardless of what these statistics say, and that's what I'm going to do. And so she's definitely went through her own personal growth, with the ODs and all that stuff, but her ability to then advocate for so many young designers and designers of color, like chef's kiss. I also really admire Diane von Furstenberg, who was really one of the first female designers who really designed for functionality. She had the wrap dress. And what you'll frequently hear in the fashion community is that men design for aesthetics, men design what looks nice, whereas women design for functionality. So she developed a dress that made women look beautiful, that was easy to pack, easy to carry, easy to wrap on, flattered multiple figures, etc. Women design pockets, whereas men design bras and shoes, like high heels and all these things. So she did a really great job of pushing forward functional fashion for women. I would also say Devil Wears Prada. What is this woman's name? From Condé Nast. Do you know what
I
I'm
don't
talking
know.
about? Anna Wintour. Anna Wintour, level of bleeps on zero, on zero. Like she is just so determined. And they made that movie about her, which, you know, I don't know if it's, but that is fashion, and she is an icon. She has an eye. She can pull together a vision. She has done a lot of work. Another leader I really admire is when I was in undergrad, I actually was in a program that was internship program created by Michelle Obama. And so I've been able to see aspects of her journey since undergrad because I went to University of Chicago. And where she is today, just inspiring women. She's a blessing to have alive.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. And definitely no blurring out on this podcast. So,
Well, Anna, I will say that on record that Anna Wintour is on zero fucks given, and we love that because. And sometimes I feel bad with my team because I will check in with them because I'm so nice. I'm like a bleeding heart, and I'll be like, it's just like bad, and like my teammates will respond to me like, "You gotta hold the line," you know.
I love it. Okay, finally, where can people find Oya? Where can people find you?
Yeah, so I have a TikTok. That's what I'm working on. It's Life of Mitch G. You can expect cutesy content, workout content. I think I'm going to start getting more honest though about the dark parts of being an entrepreneur. Like people see the glitz and the glamour, but sometimes it's stressful. Sometimes this is risky. Sometimes I'm making decisions which impacts people's livelihoods. I have salaried full-time employees. At one point we were 5 full-time employees, right? So, and I love these people. I love and care for these people. Um, it can be lonely because not everyone's always there with you at the end of the day. So there's a lot of emotions that go into that. So if you need help with working out, you like fashion, or you ever struggle from like anxiety and like I don't want to say depression, but just like pressure. I feel a lot of pressure on my head, then definitely feel free to check out my TikTok, Life of Mitch G. And you can also find Oya at Wear Oya, WearOya. And you can see a lot about our designs and our models, our commitment to diversity, which is important to our brand, and learn more about us.
Amazing. Well, I'm excited to follow you on TikTok because we definitely need more of that honest content around entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep up with you. Don't put me in the same category. You on like top 10 level. I'm at like a 4. We just started out.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining the show and so excited to share your story.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Future is Female podcast. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. See you next time.